look at what he says here in verse 2. He says, your riches have rotted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver have corroded, and their corrosion will be evidence, will be a testimony against you, and will eat your flesh like fire. You have laid up treasure in the last days. And just to be certain, these are the last days. The last days began when Christ ascended back to heaven and took his rightful seat at the Father in heaven with all majesty and power. That was the beginning of the last days. There's no need to be confused this morning. Today you are living in the last days. And he tells us here that we've laid up our treasure in a temporary, in a short-lived time period. And he says now, the reference here to the rotting is talking about our crops. What's interesting here is those who harbor, and we focus on this as being money. And even when I said money, I can see some of our pockets got tight. They say, he's going to talk about money. Money is that one subject we don't want to talk about in the church. But we must, because Christ is coming back. And we as believers have to be able to glorify, put significance, give significance to his name of how we manage what God has given us, the little, the much, the lack, the abundance, whatever you have this morning, give it over to the Lord that he may get the glory out of it. If you only have one shirt and one pair of shoes, give God the glory. He says your crops have rotted. The abundance of your crops have rotted. Your clothes are now moth-eaten. I think so much about all these clothes that are scattered around the sanctuary, and someday, one day, long ago, maybe not that long ago, maybe years ago, this is what was going on. Some of us, we spent our last to get that sweater, to get those pair of shoes, because we're going to a party, we're going to an event, and I've got to have it. And now here we are, this many years later, at this point in our life, now we're saying, you know what? I haven't changed, but that sweater has gotten shorter. The style has changed and it's no longer in vogue. And so I'm going to give it to someone else because I've received something else. I need room in my closet. So I'm opening up my closet because what used to be hot and in style and in vogue and so desirous, I'm now getting rid of it. James is saying, your crops have rotted. Your clothes have become moth-eaten. He says, your gold and your silver have corroded. And he's showing us here that everything that we see around us is temporary. It's interesting because gold and silver don't even corrode. They don't even rust. The point that he's making is that it is all short-lived. The things that we're spending all this overtime to get and to obtain and to have so we can hoard and so folks can look at it and think that we're going somewhere in our lives. He says it's temporary. I have